Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app for your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That is Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Path to the Plate is a research-based education program that helps consumers understand how their food choices impact their health by making the connection to agriculture. Learning about how food is grown and produced, and how consumers can make better food choices for themselves and their families, Path to the Plate is all about dispelling myths and misconceptions. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hi, I'm Kenna Danielle, and you are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I'm Rick Schissler. I'm the host of this program. I'm also a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. We're broadcasting live this morning from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, which is located right here in downtown Conroe, Texas. And if you don't already know, Conroe is one of the fastest growing cities of its size in the United States. Montgomery County is one of the fastest growing counties. So when it comes to business, you're in the right place if you're here in Conroe and Montgomery County. I want to start off today's program with a quick thought. Over the weekend, I was having a discussion with a business person, and we were talking about hidden cost. Now, hidden cost can mean different things to different people, but basically it's the cost of owning something to buying something, whatever. There are costs that are hidden, that are wrapped up, that maybe you're not even aware of. And what's so important to me about that from an operational point of view is the hidden costs. They're hidden in plain sight on your financials, on your profit and loss statement. And one of those things are utilities. And what I'm really saying is people just don't really spend that much time, business people, paying attention to their utilities in too many cases. Now, if a utility such as gas, electrical is an integral part or expense for your production of a product, I suspect you're probably following it real close. But if electricity, gas is just part of heating and lighting your business, you're a retailer, you own a warehouse, distribute, you have service business, plumbing, electrical, whatever, you're probably not paying attention. And what I want you to think about, I would encourage you to, these costs are going up all over the United States. And they're going up some places at a really, really quick pace. Some of this is due to the climate change efforts from a political point of view of shoving that stuff down people's throats. And so all of a sudden your electric bill goes up 40% from one month to the next. Same thing has happened this last year and still continuing from what I read with natural gas in some locales. I read of a manufacturer the other day that the gas bill for one of their manufacturing facilities, which they use the gas in their process, had increased 14 times over what it was the year before, same month, same production levels. I am encouraging you, don't let utilities be a hidden cost for your business. In some cases, you rent space, utility costs, or some of them are rolled into the rent. or you reimburse the owner. So you pay a certain amount every month, and at the end of the year, the owner balances the books, so to speak, and you either owe an overage or you get a credit if you've overpaid on the monthly figure. Reality is that when that rolls around, and I'm sure a lot of you have already had that sticker shock for 2022, because typically in the first quarter of the following year is when this bill comes from your landlord, you've already seen what utility costs have skyrocketed. It's a hidden cost in plain sight. So be sure, what I encourage you to do, 3 things. First of all, just do a simple graph and graph your utility cost. Break it down, electrical, maybe water, that's an important part of what you do, and gas, and just put what you paid in a given month and the next month and the next month. If you can do 12 months, and the reason I want us to do a graph is you can see it starting to go up and it'll start to rise, and it may be a sharp rise wherever you are. But this really creates awareness, and then something, in my opinion, to add to your financials every month is take a look where those utilities are in relations to where they were a year ago, 3 months, 6 months ago. Another thing you can do is be sure, and when I was in business, we did this. We set a target, in our case, a percentage of revenue of what our utilities. We use more utilities than just for lights and heating of the space. So we tracked them and we allowed a certain percentage. Point being is set targets. And again, even if you're only paying to turn on the lights and maybe heat your space, cool your space, but set some targets. Don't let this surprise you. So many folks, I mean, you can go online and you literally can find thousands of testimonials, if you will, where people are complaining about the sharp increase in utilities. You know, the weekly business hour is where Montgomery County and businesses now throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, share ideas to improve their businesses, and to be part of conversations that can make a real difference in your business. I encourage you, if you're not already, join our community. You can go to the website, onebestconsult.com. That's the number 1bestconsult.com. Join the group there. One Best Consult is my part of the weekly business hour, and you can stay up to date and participate in conversations with your peers, with other business owners. Reminder, too, as we start the show, it's broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube. Simply go to one of those providers and type in the weekly business hour. It'll take you there. You click on a button and you can watch as well as listen to the program. And also at any time during the program or after, if you've got a thought about the show, you got a criticism, hopefully constructive, or you've just got a business question about your business, drop me an email. It's real simple. Just send it to onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's onebestconsult@gmail.com. Well, today we're going to have a playback of a conversation we had earlier this month with Craig Sawyer. Craig is the founder of the Sawyer Health Solutions organization. He's one of the leading authorities on health insurance for small businesses. And he's going to lead us through the options that are currently available, potential pitfalls that are out there, and opportunities for your company, whether you do or don't currently provide health insurance, but to provide cost-effective health benefits for your employees. It's an area that I think everyone, whether you've got two of you and one employee, because in many locales it only takes two and you can buy into a health plan, or if you have 2,000, health insurance is becoming more and more important. So you need to be aware of it. And I think Craig does a great job in our conversation of giving you basic information. He's also available if you have questions. You can email or call him. So please, let's take a listen to our conversation with Mr. Craig Sawyer of Sawyer Health Solutions. Again, we're out visiting with experts, and I think we have a wonderful, very smart expert, if you will, with us today, someone who knows the healthcare business. And if you're like me, when I was in business, it was a challenge to keep up with the healthcare situation because employees, a good number of them, are looking for health care in their job. And when you don't have that option, when you don't offer in medical insurance, then you reduce the size of your labor pool. So it's very important at least to understand the generalities, and so you can make your own decision and perhaps find the right alternative that fits your budget, fits your pocketbook. So I'm pleased to introduce Craig Sawyer. He's with Sawyer Health Solutions, and he works, well, all over the country, more or less, but works here in Texas and other big states. So Craig is offered to kind of walk us through the current situation that's available to us as individuals and small businesses in the health insurance arena. Craig, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick. Good to be here.
Well, Craig, let's just kind of kick into this thing. I mean, health insurance options for the small business people, the small business owners, small business. What's available today in the marketplace?
There's actually a lot more than you'd think. A lot of people are fully aware of the Obamacare stuff, the Affordable Care Act plans that are on the marketplace that you can sign up for every, November, December area. Everybody's pretty aware of those, but they also come with higher prices, higher deductibles sometimes. So we're not all aware of all the other options that might be out there. And that's my job, is kind of just at least bring that to the forefront and let people know they have more options than just the marketplace stuff. So, you have private plans that are available, association-based plans that are available. You have, of course, your health share programs that are out there. So there's a lot of different options, and every one of them has their place. So it just depends on what your specific situation is. Perhaps, what type of business you have can come into play, what type of recreational stuff you do outside of work, if you have time outside of work, family size, income, all kinds of things come into play on which ones that would, be the best fit for you. And that's kind of my job to kind of sort through the mess there and find the right one for you.
Well, that's one of the things I believe people need to remember, because it's always in play. It's always in the background, at least, is the market's changing. So right. This option may be the best for your company today, but next week or a month later or whatever, another option will give you, say, better coverage or more bang for the buck. And exactly. So it's ever changing, which is amazing. And it changes pretty quickly these days.
It does. And it's nice to know that your plans can change with you if you have the right plan. So some of them will lock you in to where, you can cancel any plan at any time. But as far as making a change, typically most of those plans have an open enrollment period. So you can't really do anything with it until the following November or December. And a lot of times, especially as of recent, the last few years, there's a lot of changes quite often, multiple times throughout the year that could affect you. Like, back in 2020, 2021, when COVID was at its full force, people were losing hours at work, so your income changes, your needs change, your health needs, change and things like that. It'd be nice to have a plan that's available that you can adjust as needed, as opposed to having to only be able to do it once a year. So those options are pretty handy.
Well, and there was another thing when I owned business myself, as a small business owner, that I always had to look at was the difference in the census of my employees. Because you've got young people, old people, you have men, women, families, no families. I mean, you got to see what's best. Well, it may be best for the young people, but not the older folks and, baby and children. And because a lot of times to add your family is very expensive. And a lot of companies, in fact, most small businesses I've ever dealt with, they did not include that coverage. So it was up to the employee. Right. And that has gotten out of sight as far as what it costs to add a family. What is your take on all that? I mean, this gets pretty complicated.
It can, and that's kind of what the flexibility of plans can be very useful in senses like that. And when I'm talking to small businesses, not just the business owner and their family, but maybe the business owner has 10, 15 employees, and they want to be able to provide some either coverage options, maybe even if they're not paying for them, they just want to provide some options for them to that they can look into themselves, or if the business owner wants to chip in and pay for part of it. It's nice to know that there's some plans out there that can adjust a little differently for that 26-year-old female that maybe is in a newer relationship or engaged or newly married that might be looking to grow their family, and then the difference of those needs compared to a 60-year-old male who's just in the final years of regular health insurance prior to going on to Medicare. So the needs do change a lot. And also, geographically, there's some plans that are not available in some states compared to others. I'm licensed in 31 states, and I can't tell you the variety of regulations from state to state is insane. For some of these states that are a lot more strict, then you have other states that are a lot easier to deal with. So I like those states a lot, but it just varies. So again, it's just an individual consideration for each person, each family, each career path. Each person has their own lifestyle outside of work and inside of work to look at those different options.
Well, as you go into the marketplace, which is the key point of the discussion today, is the marketplace. I guess the first thing when we're out looking and trying to compare whether we have an existing policy or we're trying to bring it as a new benefit into our business would be pricing. I mean, so how do you compare pricing, or what elements do you need to look at to compare pricing?
I love that you asked that question, because that is probably the biggest factor in the decision, right? Everybody's like, well, if I can't afford it, it doesn't matter how much insurance I have because I can't make the premium anyway. What difference does it make? So the number one thing we're looking at is price. And I think that's perfectly fine as long as you are also looking at the things that are included in that price. Because if you tell me, hey, I found an awesome car for $25,000. Well, that's a great rate if it's a Lamborghini. But maybe not so great if it's a 1978 Pinto, right? So it depends on what you're getting for it. What's the value? What's in that plan? So you want to look at more than price. And many times, just like as in most things in life, you get what you pay for. However, that's not always the case. There are plans available that have no annual deductible, which typically, when you don't have a deductible or you have a really low deductible, that typically drives your monthly premium up. But there are plans that are medically underwritten. If they're private plans, if you're a low risk person, you can get a lot more benefits, have the no annual deductible. You get kind of the win-win-win-win with all parts as a kind of a reward for being healthy, like your car insurance does. If you don't have any tickets or accidents on your record for your car, your rates are lower because you're a lower risk. And some of the private health plans are medically underwritten and can provide that too. So there's the difference in people is what's going to make the biggest difference. And just bringing to the forefront that you have those options available is the most important part. But as far as price, if you're looking at that price, like say you're looking at those marketplace plans and you see that it's X dollars per month, you want to kind of click on the more details. Is that price is appealing, but does it have a $16,000 annual family deductible where you got to come out of your pocket another 16 grand before the insurance actually starts doing its job? So then you can add that to that monthly premium, and all of a sudden that premium doesn't look so nice anymore. But if you're, reasonably healthy and, you see that, you may be just looking for something that's more catastrophic. So, you pay a little bit less per month. And if you're really only using that plan for catastrophic stuff, like, that random heart attack or stroke or cancer diagnosis that's, can happen, but not likely to, you might be okay with having that $16,000 deductible. But if you're somebody who wants to be able to actually use it on a regular basis, going to doctor's visits and physicals and, the occasional injury here and there, you might want to look a little bit deeper into the actual plan details.
One of the things I remember I was taught working in the family business before I struck out on my own was we'd kind of do a spreadsheet when we were trying to compare, and we had a profile of typically 3 different employees, young, older employee, perhaps a woman, or man and woman, just generally not age related. And then we would go through the premiums, the out of pocket, everything, and just list out to see what potentially in a scenario, say worst case scenario, so to speak, or even something that wasn't worst case. It was a 2 or 3 day hospitalization with some surgery, and try to analyze what it would cost them and it was amazing. Sometimes, like you say, that it was not just the premium, it was those other charges that kind of come up and bite people, like the out-of-pocket charges, the deductibles and things that made it, hey, you think you got a great benefit, the premium is low, but it's not going to be helpful if someone actually does get sick, even for a few days in the hospital or treatments or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. And because of the individuality of, each situation, I work primarily with private plans that are association based, and you can customize those a little bit more. Like, when you're picking something from the marketplace, you have the, bronze, silver, gold, platinum kind of thing. And it's like shopping on Amazon, right? It's just, you have your selections there and click on it and add to cart and then pay for it and you're done, right? So it all just kind of filters into one thing. It's, simple cookie cutter type deal. But if you're looking for something a little bit more customized to where you're only paying for stuff that you actually want to have or that you actually need or that you can actually afford, and you want to customize a little bit for your specific lifestyle, association-based plans or private plans are kind of nice because you can, have one thing in it, like, maybe a lower deductible, but, raise your co-insurance or, whatever the case is, and you can kind of bounce it around. If you're somebody who has a job that's a little more physical, you're working out in the open, construction or something like that, where you're more likely to get hurt or something, then you might want additional accident protection that somebody who works in a business office less likely to have an injury, so they may not want to pay for that additional coverage. So it's nice to know that you can build the plan to suit you as opposed to just, saying, hey, here's what we have available, A, B, C, pick one, take it or leave it kind of deal. So it's kind of nice to know you can do it either way. And if you just want something simple, you don't want to have to deal with all that, then great. You can just pick one right off the shelf.
Behind the pricing, I guess the next item or next issue is the benefits that you get, because again, we touched on that indirectly, I guess, in the pricing discussion, but benefits, catastrophic versus doctor visits, and it relates obviously to pricing, but you want to know what's available to people because that can vary widely.
Right. Yeah. And again, most of it just comes down to what is available in your area, because there's what's available all the time, what's available in your area, because it's all geographical. Everything that has to do with health insurance is based on your geographical location, mostly like zip code. It's based on age and gender. And then depending on what plans you go with, you have like your Affordable Care Act plans that are on the marketplace. That's when income is going to come into factor. And then you also, and that's only, and I want to make sure I point this out, because a lot of people will tell me, I don't qualify for Obamacare. And that's never the case. Anybody, and I mean anybody, can get an Obamacare plan in the United States. The not qualifying is just whether or not you qualify for the subsidies that help pay for your coverage. And that's based on income. So if you, make $80,000 a year, then yes, you can still get those plans. You're just gonna be paying the full price for it. The government's not gonna help you pay for it. Right. But if you only make $35,000 a year, you can get that plan, and the government might chip in $200 a month, making it a lot lower for you. So I just want to make sure that's clear, because that's one huge misconception that's out there, is people think that they just don't qualify because of their income. And then you have private plans, again, that are medically underwritten, have nothing to do with your income. I never ask people what they make. I don't think it's any of my darn business, right? So, but those are based off of health. So I ask the health questions, and if you're reasonably healthy and you want those discounted rates, you may qualify for those plans and get, lower rates that way. So there's multiple ways that you can go about doing those, the prices, and comparing the different types of plans that are out there and see which ones work best for you.
Another important issue is the network of doctors, of clinics, hospitals, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, if it's inconvenient to go to the doctor, or, the particular network is the doctors. I just read an article this morning about a particular network of doctors, or is in this case, I believe, is dentists, and they had so many bad ratings. The way they just handled when you went to visit, and the whole experience was very negative. And so people have to be aware of the network that comes along with the plan they're considering buying for their employees.
Exactly. And, when it comes to networks, because you can really get in the weeds with health insurance and get things confusing and start using all the different terminology. And that's where you really lose people. And I try to kind of break it down, a little simpler for I'm just an everyday Joe too. I don't want to hear all the terminology, and I work in the biz. But if you kind of break it down to where they can understand how it's going to work. And when it comes to networks, yep, you got PPO, you got HMO, you got EPO, you got POS. There's like all these different acronyms that nobody knows what they stand for. But all that's important, it doesn't matter what they stand for. It just, what does it mean for you when you go to the doctor? And PPO is the one that gives you the most choice. That's the one that allows you to literally go to any doctor you want to go to in the country, any hospital you want to go to, In network, out of network, it does not matter. Your coverage is going to be exactly the same. However, I cannot stress enough how important it is to be in your network, because then you get those network discounts. And I mean, that can range depending on what network you're on, whether it's Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Cigna, whatever network you're on, they all have their pre-negotiated rates with the doctors. And it can give you anywhere from like a 35% to even as much as like a 65% discount just by being with one of the in-network doctors. So that's huge. I mean, you can cut your bill in half right there just by being in network, but you're not limited to only being able to use your coverage in that network with a PPO. An HMO, they give you a list. Here's the doctors that are in our network. If you use them, you are going to get that in-network discount. If you don't use one of them, you essentially don't have coverage at all. So with an HMO, that really comes into play because a lot of people will tell me, but you know what, it doesn't matter. My doctor's in network, so I'm good. And that's awesome. But the problem comes in if you have that big issue, if you get a cancer diagnosis, God forbid, and you say you live in Texas, but there's a specialist that lives here in Florida that you want to see that's going to give you the best opportunity of getting the care that you need to beat it, you're going to want to come to Florida. But if you have an HMO, that's going to be out of network. So you either have to pay for that out of pocket, which is going to be atrocious, or you have to choose a doctor that is in Texas and make sure that, hey, this is the best I can get. I guess that'll do. So the flexibility of a PPO is certainly better, but unfortunately, on the marketplace, as the years go by, there's fewer and fewer of those PPOs available. So almost everything's going to be an HMO or an EPO when it comes to the marketplace plans anymore.
That's interesting because you mentioned people actually going in your scenario to Florida or whatever. It becomes a area. I get the impression most employees don't really spend much time thinking about the health insurance, right, until it becomes an issue. So, and then they get a surprise, and the employer's lost a lot of the value of providing the benefit.
Exactly.
If the employee says, well, this is not covered. I mean, I have been in scenarios where typically it's not the employee themselves, but their spouse but the education of the employee to understand something beyond just doctor visits.
Exactly.
When and if, I don't know how we get around that.
Well, it's not the most exciting topic to talk about, right? So I know working in health insurance, I'm the last person in the world most people want to talk to on the phone. It's not like you wake up in the morning and be like, you know what, I kind of feel like talking to my health insurance agent today. It's just that I don't sell cookies. People aren't excited about talking about it until it comes time that they need it. And then all of a sudden it's the most important thing to them. And you touched on something. It's something that you shouldn't have to think about on a daily basis. You should just know that it's there for you when you need it. The security of having it there is the most important part. So when I'm talking to people about it, I kind of have a responsibility ethically to make sure that when I sign somebody up for a policy, I go through start to finish. Literally only takes me like 15 minutes to go through the benefits. And of course we send everything to them, but you want to cover as much as possible when you're speaking with them, because most people aren't going to read that stuff once they get it in their hands. So you want to make sure they understand it. That way there's no surprises. So the worst thing for me as an agent to run across is when one of my customers has a surprise. If they're surprised when they go to the doctor that something wasn't covered that they thought was covered, then I didn't do my job. And so that would be the worst thing that could ever happen to me, is surprising somebody. But you want to know what's in there. And you again said something to the effect of that people are surprised by what may not be covered in their plan, or think that something isn't covered. Oh, they don't pay for anything. That's not covered, whatever the deal is. Most of the time, most things are covered. You just don't know it because your deductible is so high that you're paying out of pocket for everything because you have to meet your deductible first. So, if you have a high deductible, like a $9,000 deductible on a bronze plan, every time you go to the doctor, you're paying for that visit 100% out of your pocket. You're paying for everything until you've hit that $9,000 threshold prior to the end of the year. If you finally hit that $9,000, then the insurance is going to start paying for stuff. So it's not that stuff's not covered; it's just getting applied to the deductible. And so most people think, oh, they're not paying for anything. It's not covered. It's not covered. It's not covered. And that just simply isn't the case. You just have a really high deductible, and that's the things that you should consider when you're looking at plans and look at those deductibles and why you should be looking at those deductibles.
Yeah, in my way of thinking and experience, that's where health savings accounts can be a big plus.
Yeah, they
Especially
can.
if the employer contributes to them. And I've seen that. I've had a client recently that he's done a very good job, in my opinion, of putting that and selling that to employees and all the advantages of it, and having that cash, because that's the thing. Where's the 9,000 going to come from? Well, doling it out a little bit at a time at 60, 80, $100 for doctor visits is one thing. But then if I need something beyond the doctor's office,
right.
I had an offer to me the other day. The doctor wanted to do a particular scan situation in my leg, and the insurance wouldn't approve it because he'd already done an ultrasound. And so I get a phone call from the hospital, and they say, well, we're unable to get this approved, and I already knew it. And so you have an option. You can write a check for 10,000 and some dollars. And I just said, well, no, I'm not, if they didn't approve it, they didn't approve it. Right. So.
Yeah. And that's the thing, think about, when, do you have the money sitting there? Some people do, again, everybody has their own thing, Joe Schmo, next door to me might have a heck of a lot more money than I've got sitting in a bank, where they don't mind, potentially drawing from it to take care of those out-of-pocket expenses like that. But other people, and dare I say, most people don't have that much sitting in the bank, especially right now. Things are a little tighter right now with the inflation. So, we got, again, something to consider is those HSAs. And I'm not a pro at HSA, so I can't give you a lot of details on those because I don't personally work with them. But I do know that to have one, you have to have a high deductible plan. That's just part of the HSA deal. So there is a trade-off, and that's kind of how everything works in the health insurance world. Is you might get this, but then you can't get this. And if you want that, then you can't get this. So you just have to kind of weigh out what your priorities are, and then what your financial situation is on whether or not you can come up with that when you need it.
It's like I said, go back to the spreadsheet and compare the opportunity.
Right.
What it's going to cost.
It's like everything else in business.
Quick anecdotal story or funny story. Back when I was younger in the family business, in fact, it was my grandfather, went back generationally, started providing basic health care for his line or production employees, and found out after several years that a lot of them just didn't care. Now, I'm going back 40, 50 years ago, right? But they didn't really care. And it was a basic coverage, but it wasn't high deductible or anything. So they turned around and started charging the employees $5 a month as their contribution to the premium. And all of a sudden they started using it. They weren't even using it. It was interesting. So Be careful, small business owners. If you bring health insurance in, be sure you bring somebody in or yourself and take the time to explain to people the basics of how it works.
Yeah, you know what? And another thing too, that since we're talking about the small business owners, a lot of them will want to get a group plan, and a lot of group plans are a good option. Group plans can do two things. They can give you discounts on rates, but only if you have 50 or more employees. So keep that in mind, because I work a lot with the 20 and under employee small businesses, and a lot of them will tell me they only have 2 or 3 people. It might be the business owner, and then they have a son or something like that that works for the company as well, and they'll have their own plan. So 2 or more is a group, so that's fine. You can get on a group plan, but you're getting 0 discounts. All it is just both insurance policies on one premium. It's all it is. So you're paying a regular price for everything. So just know that you're not getting any discounted rates unless you have more than 50 employees.
Yeah, you make a great point with that. And again, it's just one more item that has to be explored. That kind of brings me full circle. Consultant versus an agent. A lot of folks out there say they're agents, right? I'm an agent, and I sell health insurance. And lately I've seen kind of a surge in people that claim to specialize in small groups or the 2 or more, or even individual. So it seems to be out there. Could you help us understand better having a consultant come in and look at what we need, recommending versus an agent?
Yeah, in the legal sense, as far as what your position is, when we're all pretty much agents. I mean, there's no official title that is consultant. I rate like consultants or advisors separately than agents in the sense of how usable they are to you, how um, advantageous it is to have a consultant or an advisor over just an agent. In my personal view, the difference is an agent's just there to sell you a policy. They're just there to write it. They're not there to help you find the right one. They're just here. I'm going to write this up for you because I'm licensed and I can, and I'm going to submit it. That's an agent. To me, a consultant, which I consider myself a consultant and or advisor, because I'm going to help you. I'm like, if you're looking at this plan, why are you looking at it? Why is that appealing to you? And then, are you sure that's the right one? Because you also have these options that I think might fit a little better because of X, Y, and Z. So to be able to be an advisor or a consultant, you're looking at all options, not just the options that you sell. Like, I don't sell everything, but I also don't sell the people that I'm talking to my plan. I might take them somewhere else, or give them to a different agent that can offer the plans that I don't offer, because my plans aren't for everybody. And no plan is. I mean, there's no universal health plan out there that is going to fit every need the same way. This does not exist. My plans included. Every plan is going to have a hole in it somewhere. It's just a matter of how important that hole is to you. So if you have an advisor that's talking to you, that's looking after your best interests, or they're also considering your business in addition to your health and your family, in the sense that if something major were to happen to you as the business owner, can your business keep running? If you're in a hospital for 2 weeks after a heart attack, do you have to close the doors because you're the primary person that's keeping that business going from day to day? And a lot of us are, right? Especially if newer businesses, you're wearing all the hats. If you can't be there for 2 or 3 weeks, you're done. So you need a health plan that, even though you can't be there for a couple of weeks and you have to shut the doors, that maybe you have a health plan that's going to provide a cash lump sum as well as the health, the medical benefits. Maybe it's going to pay out a lump sum cash payment as well, so you can use that to keep the lease paid and keep your power bills going and things like that. So certainly things to consider, and that's where the consultants and advisors come in. So to help bring all of that to the forefront, so you can consider all things, not just, I'm healthy, so I'm not going to have to use it. There's a lot more involved there.
You make an excellent point, because like taking on any new challenge, or if it's existing, there are always moving parts. And
Right.
As an individual owner, unless I've had experience in this case, in the health field, the health insurance field, dealing with health insurance claims, whatever, there's just no way to fully understand just that. And then when you start talking about the issue you just raised, there's a lot that goes to it. And that I agree 100%. A consultant to come in and advise you and bring to the table not just that knowledge about the primary goal of the health insurance, but ramifications, what the market's doing currently, and so on and so forth. But I happen to be a big believer in consultants anyway, in certain situations, especially in smaller businesses where we don't typically have large staffs or people to do it. And it makes a lot of sense to me. Well, Craig, I can't thank you enough for taking time to visit with us today. Obviously, you're extremely well versed in health insurance and all that surrounds it and goes with it. Any parting words of wisdom that our listeners particularly need to remember as they continue to wade through the health insurance?
God, I would have so many. We could do a whole show just on that part. But I think it just comes down to one thing. Just know that you're not alone. And that there are folks out there like me who do want to help. Like, genuinely, I'm here to help people. I've been doing this long enough that I'm not depending on the paycheck from every single person I talk to. So I'm here to help provide knowledge and comfort, and knowing that, hey, you're not just stuck with one thing that you might know that exists. There are plenty of options, but sometimes you can feel overwhelmed with those options too. So, I'm here to simplify that process. It's literally maybe 7 to 10 questions I can ask, and I can pretty much steer you in the right direction for what type of plan you need, and then present that to you, and then allow you the opportunity to decide for yourself if that's the right plan for you, the right path to take. But just know you're not alone. There are some good consultants out there. Make sure you're finding somebody who's not just calling themselves a consultant because the title looks pretty, and they're just an agent in disguise. the hardest part of this whole process is getting, navigating the weeds and finding that right person that can help you out and actually help you navigate that stuff. That's going to be the hardest part. But if you have somebody, again, I'm plugging myself here, but somebody like me who actually genuinely does care about what's going to happen to you, your family, and your business, should that time ever come, we are out there.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And again, thank you for taking the time to visit with us and share some of your knowledge. If folks want to reach out to you directly, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would love as many phone calls or text messages as you can send. I like talking to people personally. You can reach me at 239-677-9877. Again, you can call or text. I am a texter. That way I can get to it. If I'm on the phone, I can just respond to you as soon as I get off the phone. And then also, please visit the website, which is SawyerHealthSolutions.com. You can also get free quotes right there on the website, and I can either call you with it, email it, text it to you, whatever's convenient for you, we can do. And then if you want to discuss your different options, we can certainly schedule phone calls and things like that as well.
Well, thank you so much. And I encourage listeners, if you don't have health insurance, or if you even have it and you're not satisfied with the individual who's working with you and guiding you through the process year in and year out, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to Craig in Sawyer Health Solutions. Well, thank you, Craig. We're going to push on and hopefully come back to you in the future. And if you ever have something that pops on your radar you think would benefit our listeners, please reach out to us as well.
Definitely. I'd be honored. Thank you.
Take care. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Rick Schissler back with you, the Weekly Business Hour. I hope you enjoyed the conversation that we had with Craig. A lot of great information in there, and I hope that you find it of benefit in your business, or someone in business is looking to change their healthcare situation for their employees, or perhaps start from scratch and put a healthcare benefit in place for their employees. But I really appreciate all the great information that Craig was able to share. And don't forget, in the recording, he gave you a phone number as well as an email. He's open to questions. He's not selling anything per se, and he's able to operate multiple states. But he really, in my opinion, knows his stuff. Second half of the show that's coming up, we're going to go to the mailbag. Got an interesting email from Mike. He says, okay, I get that I need a business strategy to guide my business, something we talked about last week. He says, where do I start in developing one? So Mike has never had any kind of business plan or business strategy, and he's asked for assistance in developing one. And if we have the time, I want to get to my one best consult tip of the week. This one's been on the board for a few weeks, and we just have not had the time in the show to talk about it. It was originally entitled, Where is the Recession They Promised, and Should I Really Care? But after events of the last week, I think we all need to buckle up. It's coming. Something's coming, and it says business disruption all over it. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available in Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Did you know that there are over 153 million orphans in the world today? The sad reality is 99% of those kids will likely never be adopted. Core Love is an organization right here in Conroe that takes care of orphan children in Haiti, Honduras, and India. We bring the love of Jesus by providing their 6 basic needs of clean water, proper food, healthcare, education, job skills, and a loving home. Visit corelove.org. That's CORELUV.org. Will you help defend the orphan?
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Well, welcome back to the Weekly Business Hour. Rick Schissler, your host. Hope you've enjoyed the show so far today. I also want to remind you again, there's a copy of the podcast, videocast of today's program will be on YouTube and under the Weekly Business Hour. So about Wednesday of this week, you're able to go there. You'll see the entire show, catch some things that maybe you didn't catch before. And in particular, I encourage you, share that information of the show with someone you know in business that might benefit from it. Built quite a listener base, primarily here in Montgomery County, but obviously in the Houston area and in some cases across the ocean. So we love it. We'd like to grow our show, like to grow our participants and those from the community. So please share the Weekly Business Hour. Also remember, if you're local, if you're in the Montgomery County area, you can sponsor the show. And I say in the area because you will benefit as a sponsor. But if you're in Timbuktu in Africa, you can also be a sponsor as well. Just reach out to me. Send me an email at my email, onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's onebestconsult@gmail.com. And I'll send you some simple, straightforward information of how you can be a sponsor of the Weekly Business Hour. Well, my producer says that we don't have enough time to do everything we'd like to do today. But what I am going to do, Mike, I will touch base with you. I'm going to beg off on the mailbag that we had planned to respond to your question about building a strategic plan or a business strategy. I want to talk about this recession question, and primarily because to me it is one that is, it gets, I don't know if it's stranger or more concerning, but definitely more confusing every day that goes by. As I mentioned earlier, originally this tip of the week was entitled, "Where is the recession they promised, and should I really care?" Well, first of all, should I really care? There is too much smoke out there right now in the business world, particularly here in the United States, as well as around the world, but particularly right here in our own backyard in the United States. All kinds of things. I mean, since I was on the air live last week, we've had major bank failures, and that's rippling through the economy right now. There's talk of additional bank failures. There's Fed interest rates have been driven up at a very rapid clip last year and into this year. And the question is, what is the Fed going to do about this? There's a lot of folks, not just in corporate boardrooms, but in businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and large businesses, people who are in charge. They're sitting on the edge of their chair trying to figure out what's coming. In my opinion, the crystal balls have gotten very, very cloudy. And with each passing day, it gets more difficult to project what we're going to see, say, in the next 6 to 12 months and even further out from there. So right now, the talk of recession is still where it was a week or two ago. It just depends who you listen to, what authority, what economist, what banker, who's talking. It's like we talked about just briefly last week. It's the question of the glass, is it half full or is it half empty? Meaning flip a coin. Not really. But as far as really if a by-the-book recession, we had an argument this past summer last year about were we in a recession or not because of how many quarters things were, I'm not there. But the key question is, should you care in your own business? And I would encourage you to focus on that aspect of what's going on. I think you should care. In fact, my response that I wrote was, hell yes, you need to. But it's more personal to you and the marketplace that you serve. That's what's important. Different parts of the country are always affected differently in major economic change, whether it's up or down. Some people do better when it's good. Some people do worse when it's bad. So I think it's important. Yeah, we can watch all the folks on TV at night or listen to them on the radio or read about them on the web, and they're saying this is that, whatever. It's good to do. It's good to become educated in the business and understand the business climate. But I contend it's most important you understand what's happening in your own community, your own marketplace, which may be the entire country, or it may be regional, state, county. Whatever your marketplace is, you need to be out there listening to what your customers say, and don't forget your vendors. Vendors oftentimes are dealing with your competitors, and you can buy them a cup of coffee, find out what's happening from a competitive point of view. Are they up or down? Are they concerned? Are they making changes? Are they laying people off? This is the kind of information you want in your business. So it's real important to do that. And then buckle in and get ready to go. But make your decisions on what's happening in your marketplace, what's happening to your employees and your vendors. Okay? A lot of psychology mixed in there. People beginning to worry. And maybe they need to worry, maybe they don't. But you, as a business owner, have to deal with that and keep that positive attitude working. But again, focus on what's happening in your business. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank Craig Sawyer again, the founder of Sawyer Health Solutions, for offering the advice he did and direction that we can continue or start offering health benefits to our employees. And put a note on your calendar. We'll be back here next week at 11 o'clock from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio. And as I mentioned earlier, our podcast, videocast, is available on the Weekly Business Hour page. You can use the Lone Star Community Radio webpage at irlonestar.com. You'll find us there. All over social media, a copy of today's program will be available for you to listen and watch if you so choose. And as always, until next week, stay engaged and always keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.